Hey guys, thanks for finding my channel, watching another episode of Bad Hombre Garage. Today, it's a bunch of wind. Follow along as we put a brake system on this 29 Model A sedan. I use a tool that works out to be a miracle tool that makes this brake job way easier than I've done in the past. And we make a lot of progress towards getting this thing on the road. So, do me a favor, before we get started, click the subscribe. You don't want to miss what comes next. Thanks, follow along. Hey guys, back in the garage today, doing brakes. Pretty excited about this project here. When I put this whole chassis together here, I had no brake lines. Actually, there was a brake line between the fronts that's there that we'll probably reuse, but I've got to put in my master cylinder, booster, make lines from the wheel cylinders over, the flexi tube, all that. And I'm pretty stoked because I got my shipment in from Speedway, which was full of all kinds of little parts. You can see all across the table here I got all the parts I need to be making my brakes. Man, just check this out. I'm pretty stoked. All these little fittings, 1/8 inch to the 3/16 brake line fitting. I got a laugh out of this. I was watching Scott Rods do the same thing the other day, unboxing things. Cancer and reproductive harm. What in the world do you have to be doing with this to cause reproductive harm? What are you guys in California doing? It's all right. We're gonna keep it safe. But I've got a pile of brake parts that I need to get ready to install. Some of this stuff, like this, probably deserves to have a little black paint sprayed on it. Same with this guy. We'll paint that up. That way, at least I can tell when it's leaking because it'll run down and ruin my paint. Had to buy a couple things like these ever important RPVs, residual pressure valves. I got those. I got things to tie the brake line to the frame. Man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. I got all the pieces I need. I got wheel cylinders. I picked up a pair of wheel cylinders, but I failed to get brake shoes. I don't know what I was thinking. So here's what we're not going to do today. What we're not going to do is brakes on this. We're just going to run the lines and plumb everything. And then another day, another video will be replacing the shoes, replacing the wheel cylinder, cleaning that all up ×2. Putting a little paint on that brake drum maybe. So, man, I am pretty excited about this. I'm going to get after it here. Yeah. All right, let's do this. Okay, I'm going to walk through the process of how I set the brakes up on this car originally. Had it planned. First things first, this was a kit, probably off eBay or something. You get them off Speedway for a Model A. But it came with, I had to modify to make it fit. So the first thing when I put the chassis together and all, set the engine or transmission in, got them where I wanted in relation to the body, and then came in and put this mount in. There was more pieces to it, but this is where it fit without those extra pieces in there. And so I just welded that straight to the frame, this piece. Okay, brake booster here. Next thing I'm going to do is put on my the master cylinder part. We'll bolt that in, and then we're going to start looking for routing of how everything else is going to route. I got to run lines to the front, lines to the rear, but we also have different components in the brake system I'm going to be putting in there. I showed you just earlier my pieces, but in each direction, front and rear, I'm going to have to run a RPV, residual pressure valve. And I think the 10 psi is on the front. Man, I can never remember that. Anyway, I'll look at the little directions before I start jamming those in places, but I'm going to have to run an RPV. On the front, I'm running this guy here, the roll control. Man, you hear that thunder? It's awesome. Love it. Nice afternoon, Saturday afternoon rain. It's awesome. Anyway, roll control, aka line lock. On the rear, this is my whatever you call this thing, my brake adjustment to the rear, pressure valve to the rear. Let's see, this guy, I need a place for this guy, which is, whoops, my brake light switch. Probably the easiest way to hook up brake lights on these things. You can do like a mechanical switch, you know, against the pedal or something, but a little hydraulic switch is awesome. So I got that. I showed you this component earlier, flexi to the rear axle. And I think those are all the components. So 2 things in the front, probably 3 things in the rear. The other thing is the type of line to use. A guy named Matt hit me up on Instagram you're not checking me out on Instagram, by the way, Bad Hombre Garage, go check it out. Give me a follow. I put lots of pictures of the project. I love getting input from you guys on it. Anyway, a guy named Matt was telling me if I just go with plain metal line, which I have these 3 sticks of, you can take some steel wool and polish that up and it looks real good. And it says it doesn't rust. I'll give it a whirl. My dad gave me these 3 sticks of line a long time ago, and I forgot about them until I was thinking through the brakes and thought, you know what, I'll probably use that. So the last thing I gotta think about is the flaring tool. Let me show you this tool real quick. This little guy right here, okay, Titan. I got this guy from Speedway. They're pretty cheap everywhere. This tool was clearly designed by a dude like me who like borrowed the tool from AutoZone, the little stupid double flaring tool. It's a pain because this thing rips. It's awesome. I just gave it a test whirl and I put that little flare on that line real quick. I mean, it works awesome. So I'm probably going to just use this a bunch when I go to plumb my lines in and put my, use that little double flaring tool and put them in. I think the way I'm going to do this is figure out where my components are going to go on the car, because that's going to dictate a lot of this. Like where my rear, my pressure valve, adjustment's going to go, where I can mount my line lock somewhere in this mess. And then once I have my components in, I'll just go through and make lines and connect everything. Sounds easy, right? I'm going to give it a whirl. Okay, here's what I'm thinking for my brakes. I have a tendency to overthink things, so do me a favor, help me out here, put a comment down here. You give me your thoughts. I think I'm going to do it this way, but you tell me what you think. Here's my first thought. Okay, is it even worth thinking about the fact that the master cylinder is pointing this way as opposed to that way? So is this the front reservoir for the front brakes, or is that the front reservoir for the front brakes? And does it even matter? I don't think it matters. I don't think it cares which one's front and back, because we're going to run the RPV in there anyway. I don't think it matters. I don't want to overcomplicate it. But as I lined up the pieces that I had, because I got these nice sweet little 90-degree bend hoses, I think I am going to hook it up kind of what would look backwards. Like this will go to my rear brakes and then this will go to my front brakes, just because of the length of these, where if I put my long, either way I do it, I'll have a union happening underneath here. And I know right out of that I want to go through my RPV. So I'll probably use this shorter piece out this end of the master cylinder through my RPV, do another one on, do another line this way through my line lock, and then forward up to my each side. On the rear, I'm trying to use as much efficiency as possible, where I'll probably do like one of these double-ended cancer-causing deals from this fitting straight into my my pressure adjuster for the rear. And so I'll just tie those together, and that way my brake lights come off of them. So I'll come out through my RPV. I'll probably mount on this tab. This tab was on the frame, and you know, it looks pretty handy. I'll probably just mount that guy on there like that. This guy will come in, you know, somehow like that probably for my brake lights. Or I'll do it the other way. I'll come straight out of my RPV, wherever that is, and try to do it. But this one, this will be tied up real good. Anyway, and then I'll just come out of that. I'll go into my flexi hose, which will mount about like that. I'll probably just weld that little tab to the frame like that right there. And then I'll, you can see it's just got line out each side and then a hole. And what I'll do is I'll weld a little tab like that on the rear axle for that to bolt straight to. And then it's just a matter of running my line from there out to the wheel cylinder, out to the wheel cylinder on that side. The trick is going to be making it look pretty. I'll come across up over the top of the diff like this and then out that way. And I want to do it so it doesn't look like I did it with 2 left hands or something. So I got to figure that out. I got to do a little bit of hardware, figuring out exactly where I want my line lock. I kind of want it back out of the way, hidden, but I don't want to get it in my brake pedal, which will be there. So I'll have to figure that out. And God bless them. Jegs is great. Great company. There we go. That'll look a little bit better on the car like that. Yeah, and then tie it into my front With any luck, those hoses haven't collapsed and they're still good, because this piece was on the car. This looks like, in reality, what it'll probably end up looking like when I'm done mangling brake lines. In my mind, I have nice crisp lines, but that's probably what it's going to end up looking like. That came off the front. So I'll clean that up, put it back in the front, stick with my plan, mount all my hardware, and then just run connecting lines. Okay, we'll see how this goes. Hey guys, welcome back. It's a new day. I'm out here doing a little bit of work in the old garage. I'm tying up the hardware, going with my plan on my brakes of installing all the hard pieces that need to be installed, and then just going in and connecting them with brake line. So, if you guys check out here, here's what I kind of been working on. I got my little MIG welder out. I got I welded on that little, well, that doesn't work, does it? There we go. Welded on that funny square 3/8 nut. And that's where my flexi line will mount on the back. That's where it'll mount on the front. Drilled some holes for my proportioning valve. I don't know what I was calling it yesterday, but it's a proportioning valve. And then I also welded in that little bracket there for my line lock. And you probably will think, that's crazy. Why would you put a line lock back there? Well, because I got more space. And I'll explain that a little bit more later. One thing I wanted to do here, I wanted to shoot a little spray paint on my master cylinder, but I was going to show you guys, I don't know if you ever saw this. Check out, can you see how much garbage is down in there inside that master cylinder? That's all just the casting material. That's garbage, man. So I'm going to go clean this out, blow it out, and then shoot a little black paint on it. And then we'll be back to assembling brakes. Okay, one thing, tech tip for you today. Something I learned, if you're painting an engine, any of this hard cast material like this, take your tape, just lay it across, don't get too excited about making it match, and then come around here with your hammer, rubber mallet, tap it around the edges, and then watch. There we go, voila, perfectly masked. Tech tip. Alright guys, update time. Let me show you where I am with the brakes. I've got all my, what I'm calling hardware pieces in. Everything except for the lines that I need to bend. Okay, flexi hose mounted in there. Bolted in. I had this weird bolt. 3/8 bolt, but it takes a 10mm wrench to put on the head. So that's a great one to put on there and frustrate me for the rest of the life of this hot rod. But you can see all I need to do now is put, build my lines and plug in here, up over the hump, over that wheel cylinder. I need to build a line that goes out of here, under, plug in here to the proportioning valve, and then for the rear brakes continue, and I'll come out of this one over into the master cylinder. Now, why did I put my line lock back here? Well, because up here, real estate's kind of at a premium. And I recognize that, and I don't necessarily want to look in and see a big old line lock hanging in here. So I looked around and said, I got real estate here. I'm not running mufflers per se, exhaust underneath this car. It's got the lake style headers. I'll probably just run an insert in them that comes out the side, and if not, then it'll be exhaust that goes, you know, maybe along the side and dumps in front of the tires, like side pipes or something. Anyway, all that to say, I have this room for real estate. Okay, I'm going to have a drive shaft loop here and a drive shaft, but nothing going on here. And on that side, I'm going to run a fuel line and a fuel pump hanging in there and on. So it's just as easy to mount my line lock right here. Hidden underneath here, and I tied it right in with my brake light pressure switch. So these two pigtails can just come together. I'll run my tail light wires in this side as well, so they can all tie into that same loom. So all I have to do for my fronts is come off the master cylinder here, up through my RPV, into this, and then it's just one line straight right over, tie into my front brake line. And there's room above this cross member here where I should have 3 lines running right over the top of it. So that all in theory sounds good. Now I got to get busy building lines. So let's get on it. All right. Brake project starting. The fun has begun. I figure if I'm capable of making this little tiny 90 degree and have it flare at each end, Anybody's capable of doing this. So here's where I've started. I have my front brakes out of the master cylinder through the RPV into the line lock. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fabricate out of the line lock. And I'm going to come over here, up against the frame, right above the mount here, shoot right behind my steering box, and you can see right about there where it has to plug in. I have this nice big piece of line to start with. So what I'll do is I'll flare that end, fit it in there, and I'll start bending. And what I'll do is I have the luxury with this flaring kit to just bend it all the way down to where I'm right there, and then I just nip it off, flare the other end, bolt it in, right? All right, I'll try to walk through this. I'll give you a little how-to real quick on how this flaring tool works. It's pretty slick. Okay, how this little guy works. It's just this block that mounts here in your vise, or it comes with a little handle that screws into it. It's pretty heavy duty. So in theory, you can do this under a car. So starting with my line. You can cut it. Probably the proper way to cut it is with this little pipe cutting tool. However, I use my brake line cutter 9000. It makes it happen pretty quick. And then the trick is you come in and just square it up, true it up with a file. Okay, like so. And then you got to have a special file like this guy right here with the little end that does one of those. Clean out the inside. Okay, that's what it looks like there. And then of course, probably the most critical thing is remember to slide the flare on there. Otherwise, you have to do it again. So that's it. Then we stick it in. Well, first things first. In this tool, there's the stopper for measuring how far it goes in. So we screw that into the end. Okay? Shove the line in until it hits the stopper. Run these down. There's probably a right and a wrong way to do it, but I'm going to go work smarter, not harder. You want them down nice and snug. Okay. Then this piece comes out. All that does is position it so that it's just in the right spot. And then you got this piece here, the flaring piece. OP1, shove in there, and you see that little nipple down there is what that does, is gives it the compression. Then we'll unscrew that, flip it, push it here, and it'll give us the flare. So, put a little bit of the supplied grease with it. We'll shove it in this direction first. Tighten her down. Okay. And back off. A little bit of grease. Flip it. Back in. Rip it apart. Pull that out. Wipe the grease off. Check it out. I mean, that makes a pretty darn good flare on there, I do believe. Give it a second. See how that looks. There we go. Now we can go there and fit that in the fitting and start bending away. Well, you have to tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. Front brake line complete. From the line lock, I got to put some clamps in here, but it'll clamp in about like that. Ties into my front brakes up there. So minus some clamps, I'm pretty impressed. Normally whenever I try to bend lines, it ends up looking like something a kindergartner does with a pipe cleaner. So I'm pretty happy with how clean this is looking. The next thing I got to do is come in here now and with my rear brakes, I'll come off the master cylinder and I'll bend this line. I'll come right in between those two through my RPV, and then I'll shoot straight out, do a 90 right down into there. That's going to be a tight one because I don't have a lot of room, but 90 into there through the proportioning valve, and then I just got to make 3 more lines, 1 and then 2 and 3. But I think we're going to take a little break. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a nice afternoon, so I think we're going to go get some Slurpees or something, take a little ride, venture out a little bit, explore some of the freedom the governor has granted us, but try not to get sick. So we'll be back later with more brakes. All right, guys, we got a brake system for the most part. Come check it out. You guys can inspect my work. Do me a favor. Tell me what you think. If you've done this, you've done it better, learn some more shortcuts, let me know. Just put some comments down there. Love getting the comments. I respond to every single one that I get. Give me your thoughts on this stuff. All right, let's dig in. Let me show you what I came up with. Here's the view from the back. You can see tied in across my T right there, flexi hose. All right, and then we'll move up here a little bit. After the flexi hose, proportioning valve, RPVs, and then down to the front. I even managed, I didn't say it earlier, I managed to put a little black paint on my master cylinder. So that's it, man. I've got to go through now and I'm going to actually pull the lines back out, hit them with some steel wool. Again, the guy, Matt, was on my Instagram page, gave me that tip on doing brake lines, so I appreciate it. And that worked out pretty good. So I'm just going to come in here, I'm going to put a clamp. I got a couple of those little clamps that'll just, you know, one self-tapping screw on there. I'll put a couple clamps on to hold that one in place once that's there. But I think everything else should ride without any clamps. Yeah, all right, I'm going to clean up a little bit. All right, guys, wrap it up today. We'll call this episode Brakes Part 1 because this was the main plumbing to get it all in. Part 2 is going to be when I dig in behind the drum, put the wheel cylinders in, new shoes, and I've got new emergency brake cables or replacement ones. So we'll rig those up and try to make those work well. Thanks for following along. Do me a favor and subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. Got a bunch of subscribers. Shout out today, killbillet.com, just like it sounds, KILLBILLET.com, killbillet. They have an awesome website. It's a forum with tons of good old build stuff on there. They've got an Instagram page. They got some stuff on YouTube. Go check them out. Also, shout out to my dad, the old guy, the guru. Thanks, Dad, for giving me a bunch of 3/16 brake line. I don't know if you remember doing that about a year and a half ago or so, but man, that came in handy today and it worked well. So, appreciate it. This is great. Follow along, tell somebody about the videos. Let's build this community.